Welcome to Proclaiming Justice, a podcast from PJTN that focuses the light of truth on vital issues in today's headlines that impact every American. I'm your host, Laurie Cardoza-Moore, founder and president of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, and I'm here to educate, motivate, and activate you to action. I want to arm you with the truth and the facts you'll need to fight and preserve our constitutional republic and uphold the Judeo-Christian values our nation was founded upon. The anti-Semitic boycott, divest, and sanctions movement called BDS continues to spread lies and hatred against the Jewish state. Even newly elected Congress members have joined in as this cancer spreads and infects our young people in America. It is dangerous and must be fought on all fronts. Hello, I'm Laurie Cardoza-Moore, founder of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating and sharing the message of Christian biblical responsibility to the people and land of Israel in the face of a growing global anti-Semitism. Proclaiming Justice to the Nations was birthed to stop the silence, to wake up Christians and people of conscience to the realities of a world bent on destroying Israel and the Jewish people. In 2017, PJTN produced the award-winning film Boycott This to inform and warn the world of this new and insidious attack on Israel and the Jewish people. As Israel has stood against endless wars and terrorism, those that want to destroy Israel now look to do it on an economic level. A soft warfare, if you will. Boycott This is a film that takes a satirical look at the irony and idiocy of boycotting Israel. From the viewpoint of conservative comedian Brad Stine, here's a short sample of this controversial documentary.
I think it's the most evil country in the world, hated by everybody. They are occupiers, apartheiders, they are colonizer. They are worse than Iran and China and Syria and Rwanda combined, and worse than that, they have nukes. Of course, I'm speaking of Israel. Apparently, we have a UN contingency here with us tonight. UN contingency. And by the way, love you, UN folks. I love how you police the world, nanny the world, make us all better people. Can you do me a favor? Pay your parking tickets.
Yes, boycott is real if you think that's just. But unless you have a double standard, you must also boycott the rest of the nations where allegations of human rights violations were.
So, my journey begins. A journey to discover the truth. I gotta be honest, I really don't know a lot about Israel, but yet I have a connection to that based on my faith that I feel I have a biblical obligation to understand, even an obligation to defend it. Then I realized, well, if I want to be a truth teller, I have to be willing to examine this and see, where did I get this idea? Is this something that someone taught me, or does this have biblical clarity? Anyway, I'm going to need you, the viewer, to trust me just for a moment, because I have no agenda. I'm a truth seeker. No matter where that leads, because remember, the moment I can say there is no truth, I can control you. I can create a fantasy world and demand that you live in it.
Resistance is useless.
I think it's the most evil country in the world, hated by everybody. They are occupiers, apartheiders. They are colonizer. They are worse than Iran and China and Syria and Rwanda combined, and worse than that, they have nukes. Of course, I'm speaking of Israel. Apparently, we have a UN contingency here with us tonight. UN contingency. And by the way, love you, UN folks. I love how you police the world, nanny the world, make us all better people. Can you do me a favor? Pay your parking tickets.
Everything apparently Israel does is wrong. They can't even make baseball hats right. They make the hat and they forgot to add the brim. That's why their men wear them 24 hours a day. They can't figure out how to take them off. What's going on? What's happening? You begin to hear little things that I've heard throughout my life and throughout history. Always had something to do with Jews. in sort of some sense that they didn't like these people because they were Jews. What have these people done? Here's what I heard. Jews rule the world. What? Do you know how many people are in the world? 7 billion. Do you know how many Jews would have to be around to rule the world? What, 1 billion? 2 billion? Yeah. You know how many Jews there are? 14 million. 7 billion people. 14 million Jews. They rule the world. Those Jews know how to turn a profit, don't they? They're good.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
You know, everybody has a point of view. I want to find the truth and let people decide. So I decided, hey, I'm stupid. I'm going to have to go find experts, a lot smarter than me, and see what they have to say. I'm talking about real people, students, Jewish people, Israeli people, Palestinian people, Christian people, soldier people, Jewish comic people.
You know, it's funny. President Clinton once said, you know, when they talk about the Jewish presence in the Middle East and Israel, Yasser Arafat was saying, you know, there was no Jewish presence here. And Clinton said, Jesus? Wasn't he here?
Even a Jewish rabbi comic. Jewish rabbi? Okay, that's redundant. Sorry. Nevertheless, I got to travel. My journey took me to LA, New York, DC, and finally, Israel.
Where are you from?
Iran.
Iran?
Iran.
All right, good for you.
Shah.
Yeah? Oh, yeah, okay. You're the Shah. I wondered what happened to you. Thank you so much. He ended up here.
Thank you.
And I do have to ask myself, after all these facts have been compiled, I gotta ask myself, and so should you, why should we care about Israel? I mean, it's not affecting me, right?
You have to care about Israel, because if you don't care about Israel, what's happening in Israel is coming to a theater near you.
So, to get to the truth, we're gonna need to go back, way back.
So your people, Palestinians, have been here how many?
We've been here from the time of Adam and Eve.
What is Israel? Who are the Jews? Who are the Palestinians? What is Palestine? So, around 3,000 years ago, they had a nice little place called Israel. What gives them the right to try that again? Anyway, the Romans came in, threw some toga parties, and renamed the place.
The Romans were so fed up with the manpower and material losses the Jewish people had caused them, they decided to basically get rid of the Jewish people. So they renamed the country from Judea, they said, let's give it a non-Jewish name, to Philistia, named after the extinct Philistines. But it's amazing because their agenda was to do exactly what is going on today.
The new version of Israel was set up in 1948, which made a lot of people very unhappy.
I'm angry!
The UN partition was very friendly to the Palestinian people, offering them equal treatment, equal land, political rights that actually would have maybe helped them to form a state.
The amazing thing is, every nation is allowed its country except the Jews. Jews lived in Jewland, called Israel, 3,000 years ago.
Oh, so we are the bad ones. I'd love to sit and discuss this with you, but I'm short on time.
We settled here for hundreds of years!
Good point. None of my ancestors ever stepped foot in this land. No, you're right.
Israel faced 4 major wars that they had no chance to win and multiple terrorist attacks, and the Jews haven't budged. In fact, they keep winning more land somehow.
As a byproduct of a war we didn't start called the 1948 war, there was a line drawn called the Green Line. And 2 countries that had no right to be in here seized pieces of territory. Egypt seized the Gaza Strip, and Jordan seized what everyone calls the West Bank. And people don't get this either, that Israel is 20% Arabs. Everyone thinks the Arabs are all living behind barbed wire and fences. But Israel itself, within the internationally recognized boundaries of Israel, is an Arab population, Israeli Arabs. People are shocked to hear that.
So now, just who exactly are the Palestinians?
Were they called Palestinians then? I don't even know what they were called.
We are all, well, the Canaanites. This is the land of Canaan, and Canaan is an Arabic word, and
Palestine, is Palestine an Arabic word? I don't know the difference.
Well, Palestine, it's thousands of years old, you know.
After the Romans renamed the place Palestine, everyone's driver's license said Palestinian, right? I mean, the Jews, the Arabs, the Democrats, everyone. Actually, for the next 1,500 years or so, it was the Jews, not the Arabs, who were called Palestinians. Now, here's the strange part. Jews who had lived there since birth suddenly were no longer Palestinians. Only the Arabs were.
But What's in a name, right?
There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man.
Did you know that there have been more United Nations resolutions condemning Israel than every other nation on the earth combined? What?
I'm afraid they'll find our humor very, very dry.
So I went to meet with some important UN people.
What do you got?
I mean, first of all, the UN as an organization in general does a lot of good work in the world. When we're dealing with the General Assembly, for instance, it's basically become the thrashing ground for Israel.
I think that the UN became one of the biggest corrupt organizations around the world.
The UN Human Rights Council gets together and immediately at every session always begins by condemning Israel, automatically. So the UN is not an objective player in the Middle East at all.
But if you really care about human rights, look at Syria. What are you obsessing with us for? There's hundreds of thousands of people being killed there, and you're silent.
Much of the world has signed on to say and agree that Israel has breached international law as far as an occupying nation, so on and so forth. So, if Israel has in fact broken an international law, well, let's sue them. That's the American way, right?
Israel's occupation is completely lawful. Any country is entitled to occupy an enemy country that is using its boundaries to attack.
Well, there's a military presence in the West Bank that ensures security and that ensures that buses don't begin blowing up again in Jerusalem and in Tel Aviv, which was a reality not that many years ago.
To argue that the settlements or the occupation caused terrorism is to get the facts backwards. It's terrorism that causes the continuation of the occupation.
This month marks the 70th anniversary of the historic Declaration of the State of Israel. God's sovereign hand can be seen all over this land. Included in the celebrations is the opening of the American Embassy right here in Jerusalem. In honor of this celebration, PJTN is offering a special 70th anniversary package, which includes a captivating new book and an award-winning DVD. Israel Rising is a unique visual story of Israel's miraculous journey from unforgiving desert to thriving nation. Thousands of years ago, the prophet Ezekiel foretold a future time in which the arid land of Israel would come alive for its people. Now this breathtaking book documents the fulfillment of this vision, as rarely seen photographs from the 1880s to the 1940s are juxtaposed with recent photos of the same locations. This book will inspire and captivate you as it illuminates Israel's foretold awakening in a new and unforgettable way. In addition, you'll receive the award-winning documentary, Israel Indivisible: The Case for the Ancient Homeland. This inspiring film examines the many political twists and turns that make Israel the world's most controversial nation. From Abraham and the Promise to the issues facing the Jewish state today, the film examines the historical, archaeological, legal, and biblical foundations for the modern state of Israel. This is a limited time offer for these two remarkable resources for just a one-time gift of $70 today. Your generous donation will help ensure that PJTN stays on the front lines and in the headlines of all the important issues facing Israel and our Jewish brethren. So please go to pjtn.org today. From studying history, it's very clear that what starts with the Jews never ends only with the Jews. We must strongly stand against any anti-Semitic trends, for if not stopped, they'll cause harm to all of us, and we'll witness the downfall of our Judeo-Christian Western culture. Today, many people say there's no longer a need for a Jewish state, that Jews around the world no longer need a place of refuge. But anyone who has heard recent statistics about the worldwide rise in anti-Semitism would never make such a claim. The reality is that neo-Nazi groups and Nazi sympathizers are increasing around the world. Surveys show that over 1 billion people in the world harbor anti-Semitic attitudes. Close to 50% believe that Jews have too much power in the business world, and 2/3 of the world's population has never heard of the Holocaust or believe the historic accounts of it are inaccurate. Don't let yourself be manipulated by evil people with a wicked agenda. When the self-serving villains are in control, good people from all religions suffer. Muslims, Christians, and all people of conscience should stand proudly and show respect for a country that gives so much to the world in so many ways. Do your part, do your research, and do what you can to make a difference. Because what happens in Israel does affect us all. This is not just a Jewish or just an Israeli problem. This is a problem for all humanity, for each and every one of us who believe in freedom and human rights. Learn more about what you can do at pjtn.org.
And if you're going to be an occupier, hey, you might as well throw in a little apartheid. It's part of the fun of being an occupier. You get to apartheid people.
People say Israel's an apartheid state, but I can't relate to that baseless hate. It's not really fair to try and compare a racist regime with the war on terror. Using common sense against violence, Israel had to build up the border fence. And if you think that's apartheid, it's because you don't know what apartheid really was.
And here's what I found interesting. 1999, Miss Israel was an Arab. Wow. And then they put one of the Arabs on their Supreme Court. And 76 of them are in Congress. What I'm getting at is apparently when it comes to apartheid, Israel sucks. For people that rule the world, you'd think they'd do a better apartheid, don't you think? All they do is just use their thuggery against people. And when I think thug, I think rabbi.
No, I don't believe that Israel is an apartheid. I was in South Africa for 5 times, and I went to the Museum of the Apartheid in Johannesburg, and what I saw there never ever appeared between the Israelis and the Palestinians. We have a full cooperation. If you will go to the hospitals, you will find an Arab doctors. If you will go to the universities, you will find an Arab academics. And no doubt that by considering Israel as an apartheid, this is another way how to increase the anti-Semitism around the world.
As a member of the South African Parliament, and in the name of millions of my fellow black citizens of that country, we know what apartheid really was. And I therefore ask those in the United States, Europe, and anywhere else in the world who charge Israel with practicing apartheid to please stop doing so. You are damaging the truth. You are damaging any chance for peace in the Middle East. And most of all, you are destroying the memory of the real apartheid.
This is an apartheid light.
There's no like toilets like in Jim Crow South, whites only, Jews, Arab, that kind of stuff. No, you don't have that. It doesn't exist. I'm not saying it's a perfect system.
Okay.
I'd be lying if I said.
But at least it's being honest. But that's what we're trying.
Despite the oppression and apartheid, many Palestinians have achieved a living status greater than many in the world. Seems to me if there was such great oppression and apartheid that there would be no success or riches or ability for Palestinians to move up. But yet, that's not what I found.
My house is right over there.
Many other Palestinians I spoke with saw no apartheid whatsoever, and they were openly happy to live in the Jewish state.
עכשיו המצב, כאילו, אני לא יכול להגיד משהו על מה שקורה, זה רק מי שיכול להגיד על זה, רק האנשים שהם בממשלה, או שלנו או של ישראלים, הם יכולים להחליט בדבר הזה. אנחנו סך הכל רוצים לחיות.
Can he quickly tell us why his grandfather wanted to help the Jews?
אצלנו בקוראן זה כתוב, אנחנו ויהודים.
In the Quran it says.
זה בני דודים.
These are our cousins.
Many of Muslims around the world and around the Arab world, they afraid to talk and afraid to say we support Israel. They said we want to move to Israel, we want to live in Israel. Because Israel is the only democracy state in the Middle East. We have all rights. The Arabs have all rights in Israel, and we want to be in Israel.
Maybe we should try it. 2-state solution. Maybe that's what it takes. Maybe if we just let everybody have half and half, we'll all get along. Jewish people are smart. They said, well, we'll try it. But we're going to give a test run first. Let's start off with Gaza.
The dude minds. This will not stand, you know? This aggression will not stand, man.
Now, it's been said that Arabs don't hate Jews because of Israel. They hate Israel because of Jews. I mean, where else does a mother celebrate the death of her child to kill Jews?
Somebody said to me today, you know, I think the Israelis' main problem is not Hamas. I think it's world opinion. And I said, you know, I think if you live there, you know, your main problem is I might get bombed when I go to the dry cleaners. I think that's a little more important than do people like me.
Every time people tried to come in to destroy them, they couldn't be done, almost like it was providential. So there's a new idea now. I know how we can destroy them. We'll call it BDS. If you don't know what BDS stands for, remove the D. Okay. What? But BDS is this idea, this thought, this concept that we're going to boycott, divest, and sanction. What it means is this: boycott. We will not buy any goods from Israel. Divest. We will not invest in their technology or their thoughts. And sanction. They must be punished for having the audacity to be in the Middle East and be a democracy. That has got to stop. How audacious of those folks. And if you want to play the boycott, divest, and sanction game, it's quite easy. I'll let you play right here now. If you really want to play this game, it's really easy. Just go ahead and reach in your pocket and get your cell phone, throw it into a manila envelope, then find your laptop, stick that in there too. And every other technological advice that's at the cutting edge of technology, just shove it into a manila envelope and send it to me. God's Comic Brands taking care of BDS Comedy Central, because I'll take that stuff and I'll use it. What I'm getting at is this: if you really want to punish Israel and show what a great humanitarian you are, you got to go back to the Stone Age.
That the BDS became another new organization who want to gain also money and power on the suffer of the Palestinians.
What we're talking about here is the BDS movement. What does that stand for? Bigoted double standard. The head of the BDS movement has said that he does not support the two-state solution. He supports a one-state solution, and that one state would be a Muslim state, Palestine, which would become a haven for ISIS and other terrorist groups.
Everyone who really cares and putting all this energy in the BDS movement, why don't we all put our minds together and try to help the Palestinian people with proper education, with taking out all the terror areas that are in there, and with making sure it's a democracy.
We're building world-leading innovation. We're not this, murderous, genocidal. That's not. You got to realize this is the same country. People don't realize that.
You know what's funny about the BDS movement?
If you can find the funny, you are a good mechanic.
A lot of the recent cancer cures are coming out of Israel.
Really?
Got to boycott them.
Okay.
And a lot of other healthcare things, like they're very advanced in robotics and things, getting people who are paralyzed to walk and things. So you got to boycott that.
Okay.
So
we got to keep people paralyzed with cancer.
Yeah, cancer.
And then you can
throw away your cell phone.
Okay.
And you'll be fine with boycotting Israel.
Okay.
Sadly, the very people that the BDS is supposed to help are being hurt. And in the end, it's going to make it harder for them to support their own families.
If this area will go over to the Palestinian and this factory will be closed, what will happen with her and her friends? She said she will die. No work, no money, nothing.
You know what I found out is, despite how much they're hated, Israel and the Jewish people continue to make the world a better place to live. Israel does great work in so many areas.
What's going on in Israel on the tech scene is unparalleled, unprecedented in the world. It's unbelievable to see a country the size of New Jersey that has, hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of startups that are truly changing the world. Many of the technologies that we're all using, we carry around in our pockets or on our computers are built here in Israel. I can't think of any big, large, tech corporation that doesn't have presence here. From, Google, Microsoft, Apple, AOL, Yahoo, they're all here.
I think there's no doubt that Israel exists today because there are skills, there are values, and there are ideals in Israel that should be shared with the world because of what they bring. That's part of this world, and that wants to be part of this world. We have a certain duty to really show and share what we know how to do. Right now we're working in 17 countries at all times.
I think what drives us as Israelis and makes us successful as humanitarian aid workers is that we're innovative, we care about people, and we have the skills to provide the assistance. And this is something that's very unique. The Jewish value of tikkun olam and about giving to the other, it's something that's already rooted into our history. It's something that is part of us. That's what we are all about.
What could it be about this small sliver of land? Because that's what people say. Maybe that's what they do. They invade other countries and take over. Never. They are 0.001% of the entire landmass of the world. They are the most historically documented persecuted people group on the face of the earth. And they finally said, we're just going to find a place that God gave us a few thousand years ago, predating anybody else, and live here so we can be safe for once and for all. I am saying there's nothing wrong with that. That's just common sense. Enough is enough. If you hate Jews, you hate Israel. This is a humanitarian problem that has to stop. Israel deserves to stand, and we will defend them. God bless you, folks. Good night.
Well, that's our program for today, and I want you to know we appreciate your support. What we've shown you is just a portion of the feature-length documentary, Boycott This. To learn the full story, please order a copy from our website and share it with everyone you can. For each of us, the time to take a stand is now. Be a leader in your community and in your church. One person can make a difference. Get involved with and support pro-Israel organizations such as PJTN. Call your senators, congressmen. Let your elected leaders hear from you. Visit our website to learn more. Sign up to receive action alerts and order our films to share with family and friends. God bless you, and thank you for all you do on behalf of our Jewish brethren and all Israel. We'll see you next time on Focus on Israel.
To support this program, send your tax-deductible gift to Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, P.O. Box 682711, Franklin, Tennessee 37068. You can also support PJTN online. Visit pjtn.org or call 1-877-873-9020.
Anti-Semitism has reached epic proportions, and Israel is now surrounded by nations who seek its destruction. For Israel to lose just one battle would mean losing everything. As Christians, it is our biblical responsibility to stand with our Jewish brethren and Israel. PJTN needs your help to reach more Christians with this urgent message. Please visit our website to become a member today and order our award-winning documentaries. You must decide that you won't be silent. Sign up now at pjtn.org. God bless you, and thank you for your support and prayers. Thank you again for joining me on this edition of Proclaiming Justice. Please share this podcast with your family and friends. For more information about how you can get involved, please visit our website at pjtn.org. As a PJTN Watchman, you can help us keep up the fight to preserve our freedom for our children and their children for such a time as this.